Ever wonder why some people seem to unlock wealth while others hustle endlessly and stay stuck? It's not just luck. It's a completely different way of thinking. Rich people play a different mental game. They don't trade time for money. They buy time. They invest in assets, not appearances. They play long games with smart bets, monetize their curiosity, and chase ownership over job titles. They risk being disliked to stay aligned with their vision. This isn't about working harder, it's about thinking smarter. If you're tired of surviving and ready to build real wealth, it's time to think different. ChatGPT said, let's get one thing straight. Rich people do not think in terms of hours. They think in terms of outcomes. They don't wake up in the morning asking, how many hours do I need to work today? They ask, what systems can I put in place so I don't have to show up at all? That's the shift. That's the unlock. If you're still measuring your productivity in time, you're playing the wrong game. Most people are raised to believe that hard work equals wealth, that if you just put in enough hours, clock in early, stay late, grind your face off, eventually success will come. That's a lie. Hard work is step one. Leverage is step two. And the wealthy, they live in step two. They don't just work hard, they work smart once and get paid 100 times over. They build systems that replace them, that replicate their effort, that allow them to multiply time rather than sell it. Here's the brutal truth. There's a ceiling on how many hours you can work, but there's no ceiling on how much value you can create. Rich people understand this intrinsically. So they stop doing everything themselves. They hire, they delegate, they automate. They stop being the technician and start being the architect. They build machines, businesses, teams, processes that keep running even when they're on a beach, on a plane, or in a boardroom closing another deal. Let's get tactical. You're editing your own videos, answering your own customer support emails, sending your own invoices, trying to post on social media, and keep track of your taxes all at once. That's not hustle. That's ego. That's you refusing to give up control because deep down you think no one else can do it as well as you can. But guess what? Someone can, and someone will. The rich buy back their time because they know it's the one thing they can't get more of. And it's not just delegation, it's design. Rich people design their life to earn income without constant input. They think in assets, rental income, productized services, media that compounds, companies with operators in place. They spend their energy on building those engines, not staying stuck on the factory floor. They make money work for them, not the other way around. People say time is money. That's wrong. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. You can lose money and make it back. You can invest money and grow it. But once time is gone, it's gone. So the question isn't how can I make more money? It's how can I make money in a way that gives me more time? That's the question wealthy minds are constantly solving for. Because at the end of the day, money is just a tool. And the richest people you know, they're not spending that tool on flashy distractions. They're spending it to buy freedom. Most people confuse looking rich with being rich. There's a big difference. You see it all the time. Lease luxury cars, designer clothes bought on credit, weekend getaways they can't afford just to keep up appearances. But the people who are actually wealthy, they think in assets. They're not flexing for Instagram. They're buying freedom. They understand that every dollar has a job, and if that job isn't building wealth, it's just burning time. Let me give it to you straight. If it depreciates, rent it. If it cash flows, buy it. That's the filter. You don't need to own 10 watches. You need to own 10% of a cash-flowing laundromat. You don't need the latest iPhone on day one. You need to reinvest those $1,000 into something that multiplies. Wealthy people ask, will this thing earn me more money, or will it cost me time, energy, and future options? Most people never ask that. Most people are trying to impress strangers on the internet instead of building leverage. That's the shift. A rich thinker doesn't see money as a prize. They see it as a tool. A dollar isn't for spending. It's for compounding. A rich thinker looks at a duplex and sees rent checks. They look at a boring car wash and see recurring revenue. They know that real wealth isn't loud, it's quiet. It shows up in options, not objects, in time, not toys. Let me give you an example. A woman I know built a multi-million-dollar business buying mobile home parks. Not sexy, not Instagram worthy, but it paid her every single month, regardless of what the market was doing. That's real wealth. Meanwhile, I've met people with blue checks and big followings who can't pay their taxes because their lifestyle is just a debt carousel in disguise. The world sees one thing, their balance sheet tells a very different story. Rich people think in terms of ownership. They want control. When they spend, it's intentional. It's either to create more cash flow, buy back their time, or expand their network strategically. The clothes they wear, the car they drive, it's not about labels, it's about alignment with their goals. And sometimes that means driving a beat-up truck while sitting on a seven-figure portfolio. You'll miss it if you're only looking for the flashy stuff. The truth is, the people who win long-term are the ones willing to look behind in the short term. They skip the dopamine hits, they skip the show, they delay the gratification because they know what they're building is deeper than flexes. They're building independence, generational wealth, and peace of mind. You can't look rich and get rich at the same time. Pick one. And here's something they don't teach you in school. Wealth isn't built playing it safe. It's built making asymmetric bets where the downside is capped, but the upside is massive. Most people, they're optimizing for safety, not leverage. They're trying to not lose instead of trying to win. They're stuck in this mindset of, let me just get a steady paycheck, maybe invest in a diversified index fund and pray the market doesn't crash. And listen, that'll get you stability. But stability isn't the same as freedom. See, the wealthy don't just diversify their assets, they diversify their risks. They place small bets across multiple verticals. A cash-flowing laundromat here, a minority stake in a service business there, a content channel, a piece of real estate, maybe even a newsletter that monetizes attention. None of these are guaranteed to hit, but if one does, it changes everything. They're constantly asking, how do I create leverage with the least amount of risk and the most potential upside? It's not about gambling. It's calculated exposure. It's math, not magic. Most people are scared of failure because they're betting everything on one shot. But rich thinkers, they never risk ruin. They make small bets often and smart. And when they win, they reinvest that win into bigger, higher leverage plays. The idea is simple. Don't bet the farm, but always plant seeds, because if you plant enough, one of them will grow into a forest. Now, here's where the mindset shift really kicks in. They don't just make bets financially. They do it with time, too. While others spend hours debating whether to post a video, send a cold email, or try a new offer, the wealthy are already 5 tests deep. They understand that action compounds. The more bets you place, the more feedback you get. The faster you learn, the faster you earn. They also understand optionality. That's a word you won't hear much outside of high finance circles, but it's powerful. Optionality means creating a position where you have multiple ways to win, but only a few ways to lose. That's why the wealthy love owning businesses with recurring revenue or assets that appreciate while cash flowing. They're not relying on one outcome. They've engineered a landscape of upside. This is how the game is played at the top. It's not about being the smartest. It's not about working the hardest. It's about being bold enough to bet often, strategic enough to avoid ruin, and patient enough to let compounding do its job. Most people are busy avoiding risk. The wealthy are busy managing it so they can multiply it. The wealthy don't just read books, binge podcasts, or take courses for entertainment. They do it with a specific ROI in mind. That's one of the biggest mindset shifts I've seen. Most people consume content to escape. Rich people consume to execute. They use learning as a weapon, not a hobby. Here's what that looks like in real life. They pick up a book on negotiation, not because it's trending on Book Talk, but because they're about to sit across the table from someone who's undervaluing their business. They take a course on taxes, not because they love spreadsheets, but because they know keeping more of your money is as important as making it. Every piece of information they take in is filtered through one question: how does this get me closer to freedom? And here's the thing, they don't hoard knowledge, they implement fast. While most people overthink, over-research, and delay action, wealthy thinkers test small, learn quickly, and iterate often. They understand that clarity comes from action, not more thinking. So they use curiosity as a compass, but execution as the vehicle. This is where the game changes. Because once you start thinking like that, your learning compounds. You're no longer guessing what course to take, which mentor to follow, or which podcast to tune into. You already know where the gap is in your skill set, and you go straight for it. It's tactical, it's focused, it's intentional. They aren't out here reading 10 books a month to brag about it. They're reading the same book 10 times to extract the blueprint. And that kind of curiosity, that's profitable. You find a niche you're obsessed with. Maybe it's laundromats, digital real estate, AI tools, whatever. And instead of saying, that's cool, you say, how can I own this? You research obsessively, not because it's a trend, but because there's opportunity hiding in the data. That's when your knowledge starts buying you leverage. The other side of this is they build what I call a skill stack. They don't just go deep on one thing, they layer. Maybe they're great at finance, but now they're learning marketing. Maybe they run a boring business, but now they're studying storytelling so they can build a personal brand around it. Those stacks make them irreplaceable. That's when you stop competing and start printing. Because when you know how to learn with intent, you don't fear change. AI comes along, recession hits, market shifts, doesn't matter. You adapt faster than most can even process what's happening. That kind of mindset isn't just smart, it's bulletproof. Knowledge is leverage, but only when you move on it. Most people are stuck thinking like employees. They've been trained since they were kids to follow directions, clock in, wait for permission, and maybe, just maybe, get a promotion if they play by all the rules. But that's not how wealth is built. Wealthy people don't think in terms of earning a paycheck. They think in terms of owning the machine that cuts the checks. There's a massive mindset shift that happens when you stop asking, how can I earn more? And start asking, what can I own that pays me forever? Ownership is the cheat code. It's the difference between someone grinding 40, 60, 80 hours a week just to survive and someone making money every time a product sells, a tenant pays rent, or a customer clicks buy now, even while they're on vacation or asleep. And here's the thing, you don't have to be rich to start thinking like this. You just have to stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a builder. When you get a job offer, don't just look at the salary, ask, is there equity? Is there a chance to earn part of this thing, not just build it for someone else? Or better yet, go start something small of your own. Buy a laundromat, flip a car wash, launch a tiny online store that sells something useful. Don't wait to build the next unicorn. Buy the cash flow that no one else is paying attention to. And when people say, well, not everyone can be an owner, ask yourself, who benefits from that belief? Because the truth is, not everyone will be an owner. But everyone could if they stopped looking for comfort and started looking for leverage. Ownership is leverage. One decision, owning a boring little business, buying a duplex, building a digital product, can free you from years of having to ask for a raise, or worse, asking for permission. Now, I'm not saying you need to quit your job tomorrow, but I am saying you need to stop acting like a tenant in your own life. You need to look around and ask, what do I own? What's mine? What pays me whether I show up or not? If the answer is nothing, then that's your first priority. Because if you don't own anything, you're always going to be at someone else's mercy. The schedule, the salary, the rules, they don't belong to you. And if they don't belong to you, then neither does your freedom. You want wealth? Then stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like the owner. Most people are addicted to being liked. It starts early. In school, we're rewarded for fitting in, for raising our hands, for staying inside the lines. We learn to seek approval from teachers, from friends, from bosses. And then we carry that habit into adulthood, into our careers, into our businesses. We water down our opinions, mute our ambition, and tiptoe around the edges of what we really want. All because we don't want to rock the boat. But here's the truth. If you want to build real wealth, you have to stop living for likes and start living in alignment. Rich people think differently because they stop asking, will they like me? And start asking, does this move me closer to my vision? It's a subtle but radical shift. When you're no longer bound by the need for approval, you're free to pursue what actually matters. And yes, it's uncomfortable. You're going to trigger people. You're going to be misunderstood. You're going to hear, who do you think you are, more than once. But that's the price of freedom. That's the cost of building something real, something that doesn't require permission. Let me be blunt. The approval of others won't pay your bills. It won't buy back your time. It won't fund your freedom. What will? Doing the work that aligns with your values, even when it's unpopular. Saying no to things that look good on the outside but don't feel right on the inside. Speaking up when it's easier to stay quiet. Building the thing no one else believes in. Yet, that's the kind of thinking that builds wealth. That's what separates the people who watch from the sidelines and the ones who actually build the game. We live in a world where it's easier than ever to fake success. You can curate your life online, project perfection, get all the dopamine hits from followers and likes, but that's not wealth. That's performance. Real wealth doesn't care about applause. It's quiet, it's disciplined, it's unbothered. And often, it's built in silence while the world is too distracted to notice. When you shift into this mindset, when you stop needing everyone to like you stop making decisions that dilute your power. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop playing small to make others feel comfortable. And that's when momentum starts to build, because suddenly your energy is no longer being drained by insecurity or comparison. You're not looking sideways. You're locked in. You're building something that's yours. Here's what rich thinkers know. You don't get paid for being agreeable. You get paid for solving hard problems, for creating value, for doing things most people are too afraid to try. And the moment you break up with the idea that everyone has to understand you, you gain the ability to make moves most people will never dare to make. You stop asking for validation and start asking better questions, like, is this decision aligned with my goals or someone else's expectations? Think about how much time people waste trying to look successful instead of becoming successful. They buy things they can't afford to impress people they don't even like. They stay in jobs they hate because their parents are proud of the title. They say yes when everything in their gut is screaming no, all to avoid that temporary discomfort of being judged. But here's the flip side. Rich thinkers embrace that discomfort. They don't run from friction. They understand it's a sign they're doing something that matters. And no, I'm not saying burn every bridge or become immune to feedback. But there's a difference between being open-minded and being approval dependent. When you're anchored in your values and clear on your mission, feedback becomes data, not direction. You listen, but you don't lose yourself in the noise. You learn, but you don't let every opinion redirect your path. That's power. That's ownership of self. The truth is, not everyone will like the path you choose. Some people will criticize it, others will mock it. A few will try to pull you back down because your growth threatens their comfort, and that's okay. You don't need a fan club. You need conviction. You need clarity. You need the courage to walk your own path, even if it's lonely at first. Because eventually, the very people who didn't understand you will start to ask how you did it. They'll see the results, the freedom, the peace, the wealth. But by then, you won't be waiting for their applause. You'll be too busy building what they said was impossible. So stop waiting for permission. Start making decisions based on where you want to go, not who you're afraid of disappointing. Your vision is not up for consensus. It's up to you.